Jefferson climbs the ladder. Oh my goodness!
We are live. We are talking touchdowns. RunPureSports.com, the place to be. I'm here with Tyler. As always, we brought in Meg because we already knew we had a disagreement, so we're going to be able to explore that a little more. But Jayme, your first time on the show. So happy to have you. Give a quick introduction. Let us know what's going on with you here at RunPureSports.com.
What's up, guys? Appreciate you guys having me on. First time. Especially first time behind the camera. This is different, but it's cool, man. So I do NFL and UFC mostly. Mostly everyone has known me so far from the UFC stuff. But I've been dabbling in, the best ball stuff with Meg, trying to get involved there. And I'm excited to get going. Excited to talk about the NFC North today. I think Meg and I talked about the Lions a few times in the Discord, so I'm excited to ask some things out and see where we all land.
Yeah, Meg definitely high on the Lions, and we will get to them. But first off, we need to let everyone know what's going on over at RunPureSports.com right now. Promo code NFL20. It's going to give you 20% off for life of any package that you join. That's right. It's not for a month. It's not for a year. It's going to give you 20% off the life of your membership. There's no better value in the sports betting information industry. Join the DFS winners. The screenshots keep coming. We've been doing great in every sport. So join the movement, run pure, use that promo code NFL20. Tyler, my gardener's here right now. I'm going to let you take over.
Yeah, I was about to say he's working the leaf blower right outside of Spread's window. It sounds like all the grass clippings are just going all over his window. But yeah, we're going to talk NFC North. I mean, we did a little mini preview on, what was that, the AFC. Which show did we do with Meg before?
We did it. I did NFC East with you guys.
Okay,
I had to get my homer
to
takes.
jam back together at this point. Yeah, NFC East. We did a little mini NFC North show inside of that one. Now we get to have those arguments again. We got our guy Jayme on here after a big UFC weekend, so it should be a fun show. I think we'll find some winners in this division.
Absolutely.
I like them.
All right, leaf blower aside, Meg, we're going to start with you. Give me your overall thoughts of the NFC North, and then we'll go team by team.
Well, obviously, I know the Lions are everybody's kind of darlings. I'm very, very high on the Lions this year. Obviously, I know Jameson Williams is going to be out for the first 6 weeks, but they did add, Jahmyr Gibbs. They added Sam running back as like a weapon. They added Sam Laporta. They actually have a tight end, in my opinion. A tight end I've been drafting a lot in the best ball streets. And, I still think they have receivers that can step up like Josh Reynolds. So they have one of the top offensive lines. Ben Johnson is one of the best offensive, coordinators. I think he's going to have a head coaching job next year. So I'm very kind of bullish on them, bullish on this offense. And, I'm not even really sure, like, if the defense is going to be that improved or not. But, the Lions are everybody's darling from last year that almost made the playoffs. I think they're kind of the favorite, and they're my favorite for sure.
All right. And I was actually incorrect. We are starting with the Lions. They have the highest win total on the board. You have to be kidding me. Jayme, I can't believe it. I'm Team Vikings over here, at least to win the division. I don't expect much in the playoffs because we know how that goes.
Yeah.
But I'll be giving my reasons for that when we get to the Vikings. What are your overall thoughts of the division? And I guess we're starting with the Detroit Lions. They're at 9.5. Vikings are at 8.5. Wow. Pretty surprising to me personally. What are your thoughts here on the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I like the Lions. I think if we're looking at this from a fantasy perspective, I think, they're great, right? They have a well below average defense that I don't think that they short up too much through the draft or through the offseason. But their offense is going to be one of the fastest paced offenses in the league. They're going to throw a lot. And I also think that they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. So for fantasy perspective, I like it. As far as like the over and under, I'm honestly very neutral. I think the last I checked, the under was, even money and a little juice on the over. So if that was the case, I'd probably side with the under. But I think Goff is okay, right? I think he's okay. From a fantasy perspective, I think he's fine. From real life, I know Megan and I talked about this a little bit, but I think he ranked 26th out of all quarterbacks in turnover-worthy play percentage. So and I think he led the league with 9 dropped, or not led the league. I'm sorry. I think he was top 5 with 9 dropped interceptions last year. I think some of that's going to regress back the other way, and we're going to see some of those balls that weren't picked off get picked off, and I think it's going to make them tough to win 9 to 10 games. I think is pretty tough. I know Meg is very high on Ben Johnson, and so am I. He's really good. There's no doubt about it. And she's right. If they have another big year, I mean, he's certainly going to get that head coaching job somewhere. It is the second year, so the continuity aspect is very good for them. Maybe a concern would be that it is a second year that now people have a little bit more film and a little more tape on him to be able to see. But, outside of that, I love Amon-Ra St. Brown, especially if we're talking fantasy wise. I mean, he's getting drafted as wide receiver 8 or 9 off the board. And that kind of feels like his floor, to be honest. He had wide receiver 1 upside. And I would be very, very shocked outside of an injury that he doesn't place in the top 10. And as far as, Jahmyr Gibbs, again, I know this is a betting thing. We'll talk a little fantasy as well. I like Jahmyr Gibbs from a fantasy perspective. I don't think drafting a running back that early in the first round does much for your team from a real life perspective. I don't know how much value he will actually bring to them, especially when they had all the holes defensively that I think that they needed to shore up. So I'm very neutral on them. Fantasy wise, love them. Real life, I think that they have a chance, to beat the 8.5 number, but or is it 9.5? Or are they 9.5?
Right now on Bet Online, over 9.5 wins -120, under 9.5 -110. So a little bit of juice to the over, but I'm fine on that either way. The juice isn't going to affect me here. I like under though. This defense to me, I think that they're going to be great for fantasy.
Yep.
Because that defense is so bad. Not only are they going to give up points, they're going to do it quickly. That's going to give you more opportunities to get your Jahmyr Gibbs, right? And your Jameson Williams. And I know Mag with her 88% Sam Laporta is going to be happy.
You're
right?
close. You're close.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I've been loving the Lions stacks on Best Ball. One of the reasons is because they're kind of easy to get, right? Because of where Goff's going. Yeah. You get Laporta. I don't know. He's not where he's when you first started helping me, Meg, we were getting him late. I mean, I had to grab him round 11 today or something to make sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's really risen up. Yeah.
Him and Waller are just flying up the board.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Waller's going in round 4 now sometimes.
Oh wow.
Which is crazy because I drafted him in round 3 last year, and it was one of my worst picks, sunk my team. Waller round 3, Allen Robinson round 4. You can tell how well that team did, right? But what's it called? Yeah. So these are 2 guys that are really flying up the board. I just don't believe in the defense, and I think we're looking a little too much on the offensive end. Tyler, where do you come in on this? Meg thinks this team is ready to take over a weak NFC North. Let's be honest, this isn't the best division. Packers probably have the best defense, right?
For sure.
Bears probably have the worst defense, but I'd say 3 of the 4 defenses are below average. Right. Your thoughts, Tyler?
Yeah, I agree there. 3 to 4 defenses below average. Green Bay's by far the best defense in this division. I mean, they're returning all their guys. They could be a top 10, top 5 unit this year if things break their way. So I'd watch out for them in this division. I think this division is going to be a lot uglier than people think. I think if you get win totals that go over, it's going to be these lower teams with these lower win totals. I think the highest win total you get in this division is going to be 9. I just see these teams beating up on each other. The schedules aren't all that easy. Yeah, Detroit could be that darling that everyone thought they were going to be last year and just score a bunch of points, win us 11 games. I just don't trust Goff to pull that off. I think he regresses a little bit. St. Brown's a stud, but without Williams out there to stretch the field, it's going to be the likes of Josh Reynolds and them guys out there. I don't trust the guys below Josh Reynolds. They had DJ Chark there last year. He's gone. He was a key piece. Laporta should be able to pick up the tight end slack. Gibbs is going to be a stud out of that running back spot. And Montgomery's just going to be what Jamal Williams was last year, just poaching touchdowns. The defense is not going to be all that good, but we touched on it in the last show we did with Meg. They don't play a lot of games outside in the elements, in the cold. They play a lot of indoor games. They go to the warm places when they do have to play outside. So I lean towards them getting real close to that win total. I'm going to stay away from it, though. I think they finish 9-8, and they finish second in the division. I don't have them winning this division.
9-8, so that would be under the 9.5. Let's say what's up to the guys in the chat real quick. Bill Miner back, big guy from the NBA Rundown, talking some NFL today. Mark Lewis, a guy that I talk to a lot. Mark, good to see you. And I see Rubio in here as well. Guys, hit that thumbs up button. RunPureSports.com. Promo code NFL20. 20% off the life of your membership. Jahmyr Gibbs, they didn't put much up for him, but I do see a rushing and receiving yards combined over 1,100. And the over it's juiced to the under here. But, boy, if he goes over that, he's definitely going to be higher than his ADP. Where would you go with Jahmyr Gibbs here?
I like Jahmyr Gibbs actually a good amount. As far as like, I have him for I think about 600, a little over 650 rush yards, and then I have about a little less than 500 receiving yards for him projected. So I think those numbers are pretty close. I have him as, he's a borderline top 10 guy. He is top 10 upside without a doubt. Mm-hmm. I think that, like I said, their defense is going to be pretty poor, and I think Goff is going to regress a little bit. I think some of those interceptions that were dropped last year are going to go the other way. And I think that's going to make them potentially play from behind a little bit more, which is only going to help Jahmyr Gibbs. So from a fantasy perspective, I love Jahmyr Gibbs. I probably am not going to touch any of his props. Probably not. I do think David Montgomery, the last I checked, hit under, I think 5.5 rushing touchdowns, which to me feels a little low. I think that is juiced up now, kind of decent, like minus 140, 150 range. And when I first saw that a few weeks back, it was like, minus 125, 130. So the minus 150 isn't great. But I mean, if we think he's going to come in and get the Jamal Williams role, which I do, right? I think he's going to get a lot of the red zone carries, a lot of high efficiency looks. And I mean, I think he's going to get closer to the 8 or 9 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. And the 5.5 just seems a little off. And I think you can get 6.5. I just saw on, I think it is DK or FanDuel, one of them. You can get 6.5. I think it's like plus 105 or something like that. But I still like the over 5.5 for Montgomery for rushing touchdowns. But as far as Gibbs goes, I'm very high on him for fantasy. I think that he has massive, massive upside in this offense. I think he fits perfect. I mean, if you looked at what Swift did last year, he was extremely effective and efficient when he played. He just was hurt a lot, and I don't think the Lions coaching staff really liked him much. And, taking a guy in a top 15 pick in Jahmyr Gibbs, I think it's pretty clear that he's going to get a lot of run. And Dan Campbell even said, he wants to kind of utilize them kind of like they did with when he was on the Saints with Kamara and Mark Ingram, right? So I love Jahmyr Gibbs from fantasy perspective. Honestly, David Montgomery from a fantasy perspective, from where he's getting drafted, probably still holds some value, but I like the over 5.5 touchdowns for David Montgomery as well.
Meg, he hit it. Going over my exposures, I think I'm low on David Montgomery. I think he's got a huge upside.
Yeah. And his price has risen.
Around 9, right?
Yeah, well, his price has gone up in the last few weeks, as it should. Because, to Jamie's point, I think he's going to have that Jamal Williams role. He can also, catch balls out of the backfield himself, So I actually think he's, definitely a stronger version of the Jamal Williams role. And so I think he can do very well in this offense. I have a lot of David Montgomery and definitely like that over prop for David Montgomery for sure. Just to go back really quick to like the conditions for Goff and the Lions. First of all, for all the NFC North, remember they're playing the AFC. They're playing the NFC South. So, that should be 4 wins right there.
They should be licking their chops. Well, we know how the NFL goes. Let's just give them 3, right? Because the Falcons are going to go off one day, or the Saints are
good. Exactly.
I think we might have underrated the Saints on our NFC South.
But that is the weakest division, in our opinion, going into the season. Yes, anything can happen. Listen, last year going into the season, I thought the Seahawks are going to be terrible. They showed than me. So, going into the season, NFC South appears to be one of the weaker divisions, and that's who the NFC North plays. But they do have to play the AFC West. So, that kind of balances it out a bit. But to the point for the Lions, it's mostly dome games for them. I believe 12 of their 18 games are in a dome. And then literally all their other games are in pristine conditions outside of one game in Chicago in December 10th. So, those are good conditions for Goff in this offense from a statistical standpoint, the offense to move, that kind of stuff. So again, that's another reason I'm bullish on the over for the offense, over for the Lions win total. Why I am betting the Lions to win the division, and like a lot of the offensive skill players for the Lions.
One point I want to throw in there about Jahmyr Gibbs, and this shocked me because for our weekly, I actually like DeAndre Swift a lot because I could put him in there and spend up for receivers. So he was in my lineups a lot of weeks. So I was really surprised when they asked, and I don't know if this was on the record or off the record, but basically they said, why did you draft Jahmyr Gibbs? It seemed like DeAndre Swift was pretty good. The Lions coaching staff was adamant that he missed so many of the holes on the designed runs, and they wanted to get someone in there that could execute more. And just as a guy that, doesn't really watch film, does this more of like statistical analysis and reading and listening to experts that watch film, right? Like, it's like, I'm not going to break down film better than a former NFL scout, right? I'd rather read that than try and do it on my own. Yeah. I was surprised to see that about DeAndre Swift. So, hey, if they're right, maybe this offense does have some upside. Maybe the offensive line is better than we realize, right? It just was really surprising to me when they said that he missed that many holes. Tyler, any more final thoughts on the Lions, and then I can get into why I think the Vikings are better.
No, just one bet I would target here, just because Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be basically their only receiver for 6 weeks. And after that, he's still going to be wide receiver 1. I don't see Williams just taking a bunch of targets away from him. Him to lead the league in receptions is 18-1. You get most of the year in a dome. The other games are played in warm weather. I think you could definitely see him up towards the top of the receptions board this year. So at 18-1, I would definitely take a shot on that.
You mentioned that the last show. I love that. I love that call.
Yeah, that's nice.
Jayme, any other bets here on the Detroit Lions before we talk about the Minnesota Vikings?
No, the Montgomery over 5.5 touchdowns. I think it's probably the best bet. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown too. I think his over receiving yards is over 1,000. I have him about 1,200, a little less than 1,200. He played in 16 games last year, and he got about 1,200. So I think that's nice, but it's not like a smashing value or anything like that. I think I like what Tyler said the most. So for me, I'm going to stick with David Montgomery over 5.5.
I think David Montgomery's too. And like I said, Meg, I knew to be drafting him for whatever reason. I'm always getting tight ends or quarterbacks right around then.
Yeah.
And I haven't got as much as I should. And maybe it's a little too late now, right? Like,
no, not too late.
Early, and now I'm just not getting him anymore because I got him in round 8 so many times. Like, why am I going to take him in round 4 now?
Right. But I don't think it's too late for you to still grab some David Montgomery. He hasn't gone that high.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into it. And Meg, this is why we brought you on, because I think the Vikings are going to have a better year. And so we'll see what you agree and disagree with here. The first thing I would say is it's a quarterback league, and the Vikings have a better quarterback. Would you agree with me, Meg?
For the day games. Yeah. I mean, that Kirk Cousins just tilts the hell out of me on night games. I mean, it is unbelievable. I know some people will say, oh, well, his record is this. It's like, but what's his statistics, or are they like garbage statistics? Like, he drives me insane. Again, remember, I had to watch him in Washington. And again, I shouldn't be looking a gift horse in the mouth. He's literally the best quarterback I've watched as an adult for the Washington. That shows you how bad I've had it as a Washington fan.
Until this year. We're going to turn it around.
Until this year. Please, let us somehow be it. But yeah, he is a very efficient quarterback. He usually ends up top 10, top 12 statistically. I think he is a very efficient quarterback, and yeah, absolutely. And look at his weapons, obviously, with Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and now you've added Jordan Addison. So I can't really fight you on that too hard. I am very bullish on Goff, but I can't really fight you on that too hard. He's got the weapons too.
Jayme, who you like better, Goff or Cousins? I
mean, I don't really like either of them, to be honest. And from a real life perspective, to me, it feels like Kirk Cousins mostly reached his ceiling last year. It's hard for me to imagine him. Did I say Cousins or Goff? Hopefully I said Cousins, because I meant Cousins there. I think Cousins reached his ceiling last year. I'm not a big fan of the Vikings this year. So I think you and I are going to not see eye to eye on this one. I think the team is just not very good from a point differential perspective. I mean, it's like historical what they did last year, right? Like winning so many games.
11 one-score games.
11-0 in one
Regression there.
score games.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, as you know, that's the one metric that's going to regress back to the mean almost. It's like a coin flip, right? So like you go 11-0, okay, now you can think you're going to go 6-5, 5-6, or whatever the following year. You know, now you're going to go 2-9 in that situation, and what's going to happen, right? So I don't think that they're very good, especially defensively. Offensively, there's no doubt from a fantasy perspective they're going to be very good. Justin Jefferson is extremely good. I think last year he led all wide receivers in red zone targets, but I think he only had 8% of his fantasy points come from touchdowns. So I expect that to get boosted up a little bit. And a guy who's going number 1 overall, I think that's a pretty good sign to see he gets a little increase in his touchdowns. But the defense is just really, really, really bad. I do think adding Jordan Addison is better than Adam Thielen, but I also feel like that this team is kind of not looking to win right now, in my perspective. I feel like they think that they're a year or two away, that they need to get a better quarterback. There were rumors that they were looking at getting I can't remember which quarterback. Was it Bryce Young, even moving up to get the number 1 pick? You know, these are all rumors, but still sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire, you know? So I'm not a big fan of Kirk Cousins. And maybe from a fantasy perspective, he's okay, but really when he goes like a quarterback 11, 12, like at that point, if I don't get my guys, if I'm not getting, you know, Watson, Herbert, and Trevor Lawrence, I'm just going to wait a little bit and get someone we're going to talk about later, like Jordan Love or something like that, you know, unless it's obviously going for a stack. If in best ball, you know, when you're just going to you're focusing straight on the pure upside and the pure ceiling, then yeah, sure, he's going to have spike weeks, no doubt about it. But if we're talking like maybe a regular season long league, he's definitely going to have some pretty poor weeks. I feel like I'm not a big believer in Kirk. I do love Alexander Mattison a good amount. I feel like, you know, obviously he has his skyrocketed, as Meg knows for sure, since, you know, when you were able to get him as like running back like 35 at the beginning when Dalvin Cook was still on the team, and almost everyone still had a good hunch that Dalvin was going to be gone, right? And you were still able to get him so late, and obviously that's skyrocketed now. But I think he's a top 10 running back. Like, he has massive upside. In the 6 games that he has started in his career, he's averaged 23 touches, 5 total touchdowns, over 750 yards from scrimmage. Like, in my opinion, you know, the last several years of fantasy football, you're drafting Dalvin Cook in the first round, right? And now you're getting a guy that's likely he might not be as good and as efficient as Dalvin, obviously, in his prime. I'm not saying that, but he's getting basically the exact same type of work that we expected Dalvin to get all these past years. And he's still going, you know, 5th, 6th rounds in that range. Like, I think there's massive value on Madison. I like his over on his rushing yards. I think it was like 850. I have him way closer to 1,000. So I really like Alexander Mattison a decent amount. I think he had 4 of the 6 games he started, he had over 90 rush yards, and 5 of the 6 games he started, he had at least 3+ targets in every single one. I think that he's going to be extremely effective from the get-go. Like I said, overall from a team, I'm very high on the under 8.5. I think you can get that plus 105.
Wow, we are opposite here.
We're so opposite, man. I knew when you said that, I was like, oh no. I thought Meg and I were going to be the ones, you know, being so opposite, but no, it's definitely you and I. I just think that they're just everything screams regression from this team, you know. And they did win 13 games, so it's like that is a big regression. But I mean, clearly Vegas is factoring that in, right? They win 13 games last year, and their total's 8.5 right now. Like that, you know. That's pretty alarming to me. I don't think that they're nearly as good as people maybe think they are. Offensively, sure, they're going to be in shootouts, but defensively, I just think they're terrible defensively, you know. And I'm not like Meg. I'm not a big fan of Kirk, and I think that he's going to struggle in certain times. He's going to have certain times where, you know, he does really well. But overall, I'm out on the Vikings. I love Alexander Mattison. Obviously, love Justin Jefferson. Of course, I like TJ.
Right, but I mean, you have to pick one to get him. I mean, it's not like
so not saying any hot take there. I like to, but I like Waller honestly just as much. So I'm more likely just take Waller and roll with that.
All right. I have so much to say about that. Number one, I agree with you on Madison, and I'm going to kind of run around a little here. Tyler, be patient. We're going to get to you. But Madison, I think it's going to be good. And like I said, this isn't my tape, but watching other guys, you know, like Brian Baldinger and other, Greg Cosell, other guys that do tape, they weren't too impressed with Dalvin Cook last year. They think they might have reached it, and Minnesota got out at the right time. And just one little segue, I'm grabbing all the Breece Hall I can get when he's in the pick 50s, and he's been dropping into the 50s off this signing. And I'm like, sign me up. Like maybe Rodgers is going to force it at some point, but I think they're going to see this Breece is so much better. I don't think Dalvin Cook is biting into him as much as people think. So I think that, they didn't really lose that much because of the current spot where Dalvin Cook is at. I mean, you guys are right about Kirk, right? I mean, he's just going to get it done. We know he's circling between 9th to 12th best quarterback every single year, right?
Yep.
Just a little bit above average. He's never going to be able to compete with the elite. You're right. He reached the ceiling, right? He's never going to be in that top tier or maybe even the second tier, right? So there's going to be rough. But we talked about the schedule here. This is not a very good division that they're in, right? And I guess it comes down to how you feel about Jordan Love, but they can get some in-division wins. They get the out-of-division wins. Of course, they are playing the first-place schedule, but boy, 8.5, that's a lot of games to lose. And I understand there's regression here, but we have regression with all the teams. Like the team that's in first place, the Detroit Lions, they were in second place in red zone efficiency last year. That's another one that, just like one-score games, doesn't move from year to year because the sample sizes are so low and things of that nature. So I think that they're over factoring in the regression too much on the one-score game stats. And, of course, we will see, but we're opposite here. Tyler, I like the Vikings. The bottom of the screen does not. Are you going to join me up here? And is it going to be top screen Vikings, or am I going to be on an island?
You're on an island spread. I'm sorry. Sorry to our guy, John.
Well, to be fair, the Vikings were good at sailing, so I'll be fine being on an island.
Yeah, they were good at sailing, so they could drop you off on the island on their way to Cancun because they're not making the playoffs this year, spread.
Wow.
You look at their schedule. You talked about it. You look at their schedule. Doesn't look all that hard until you look at the times on these games. Seven of their games are already scheduled outside of 1 o'clock. There's 7 guaranteed losses. There's 2 games on this schedule that says time to be decided. Those could drop in as prime time games. That could really screw them late in the year because both of those games are within the last 4 weeks. 4 of the last 5 games are all later games in the afternoon. You could watch this team go look like they're going to cruise into the playoffs, and then they lose 4 games in a row, and it's like, well, they just lost their playoff spot and the division. My thing, too, is we talked about the variance. They won 11-0 in one-score games last year. 2 of them stick out to me the most. The game against the Bills where neither team couldn't decide what they wanted to do in that game. You got Justin Jefferson making handstand catches with one hand. And the game against the Colts. You go down 35-0 and the Colts go, we don't want this win. You guys can have it, and just stop playing football and went in the locker room. So I don't think you just get given wins again here.
They had a couple others that were wild, too. Didn't they have a 63-yard field goal?
Yeah, they hit a 63-yard field goal. They blew out Green Bay in week 1. Like, just certain things that happened last year I don't see happening this year. They're very thin at some spots, too. Like, just say Justin Jefferson tweaks an ankle. I know he's the best receiver in the league. Not any team could really overcome losing their best receiver. But you look behind him, it's like, all right, now you're trotting out Jordan Addison and KJ Osborne.
Oh, KJ Osborne slander this early in the morning, Tyler.
But as your number 2, moving a rookie into number 1, that's just not where you want to be. And behind those guys, it gets very bad. So a couple injuries to this team, they could just be in shambles. I don't trust the defense. But for fantasy-wise, like they were saying, those last 3 weeks, Detroit, Green Bay, Detroit, that little matchup of the Vikings and Detroit probably wins somebody a fantasy league. Like that last week, they are going to put up so many points in there. There's going to be no defense. Those 2 offenses are just going to be going back and forth. So I think they win around 8 games. I'm just going to stay away from the win total. I have them going 8-9. That's where I'm at on this team. I'm probably staying away from Kirk Cousins props too, because I think this could be the year where you see him start to fall off a little bit more. Maybe that third tier might have been a little.
How old is he now? What year was that he was drafted? He was the RG3
It was the RG3 year, 2012. Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting up there in age now.
He's too. What? This is 11th year in the league. Let's say he got drafted at 22. He's around 33. Yeah, okay. He should still be good for a year or 2 more. The final thing about the Vikings, Tyler, and you already know where I'm going here, where I expect to see all the improvement. Brian Flores is defensive coordinator. I think he's a top 5 defensive coordinator in the league. I think he's going to bring this team toughness. And we see it with the Patriots. We've seen it with the Seahawks as well. When you have these really good defensive coordinators, they take average or below average players and they get them in the scheme. And that's why you see them start slow. And by week 8 or 9, if this defense can just be average or a little bit below average, I think they win the division. And I do think Brian Flores can do that. So I'm on the island with the Vikings. Ragnar Lothbrok, great show. I'll be out there with him. So we'll see how we go. Anything more on the Vikings from this panel?
Yeah, I got one thing. So, I mean, if someone does like the Vikings maybe get over, I think you could potentially wait a little bit. Their early season schedule is not great. They play Eagles, Chargers, Chiefs, and 49ers in 4 of their first 7 games, right? There's a very good chance that they would be 3-4. And I mean, the Bucks, aren't a great team, but I think they're probably a little better than what the market thinks that they are slightly. Panthers obviously not great, and the Bears aren't great, so I could see 3 wins there. But even 3, they start off 3-4. I think you could probably get a better number. I mean, maybe not a better number, but pretty close to one, especially if they would lose one of those other games and they start off 2-5. But I mean, Eagles, Chargers, Chiefs, and 49ers, 4 of the first 7 games, I mean, they're going to get absolutely smoked against those guys. So I don't so yeah, that might be something for you to do. If you like the Vikings, maybe just wait a little bit and wait till, week 8 or something like that, week 8 or 9, and then maybe try to get in on them as their schedule definitely lines up. Because the rest of the way, then, they got the Packers, Falcons, Broncos, Bears, Raiders, Lions twice, Saints. So it gets much easier later half of the season than the first half for sure.
Yeah, I didn't make him beat the Chargers, but you know me, I always think the Chargers are going to blow things. Meg, anything more on the Lions before we move on?
I mean, I could keep talking about how much I love the Lions, but no, the Vikings. No, nothing much more. I think, like Tyler said, I'm just going to stay away from the number, just because I think they could finish around there. So I'm just not going to mess with it, since I think the Lions are winning the division. All
right. If anyone wants to make a friendly bet, I'll say the Vikings have a higher defensive DVOA than the Lions by the end of the year. So that's where I'll take a stand.
It'll be close.
Yeah, I would make a friendly wager their spread, but I feel like we're just going to be fighting between like 27th and 25th all year.
And that'll be great. Won't that be fun? Yeah. It'll be like they give up 37 and we move up in the standings.
Which team doesn't give up 40 points this week?
Exactly.
All right, Tyler, we have 2 7.5s on the board. You want to go to the Packers next? They're slightly more juiced.
That's fine. We can go to the division-winning Packers.
Get them.
Whoa.
All right.
Wow.
Talk to me. You know what? So for best ball, I found a way to kind of start liking Jordan Love. I think because you can do these stacks later, right? I mean, you can get Christian Watson, 4th round, Dobbs, 7th, 8th round. Who's their guy? Musgrave.
Musgrave's the guy I like, the tight end. He's getting steamed up now. People have caught on. After 2 preseason games, people have caught on.
The point is, you could just grab whatever studs you like in the first couple rounds and still end up with a Packers stack.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't even know if I really think Jordan Love's that good.
We don't know.
I keep thinking, boy, I think I just want this to happen, right? I'm like, what is that? Stop trying to make fetch happen. Stop trying to make Jordan Love happen. Is that going to be the case here with the Green Bay Packers? I guess I'll start with you, Meg. They have the best defense in the division. I think it would be wild if they didn't have the top DVOA there in defense. Mm-hmm. Would you say they have the best coach?
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting to see post Rodgers how.
Right, like your guy Shanahan, when he had the best quarterbacks, was always the best. When he had bad quarterbacks, he was just an average coach. So we'll see how that goes. Jayme, best coach in this division, is it LaFleur?
100%.
Would you agree with that, Tyler?
Yeah, I think it's LaFleur.
All right, Meg, best coach, best defense. And I'm still not high on him. Talk to me about your thoughts on this.
Well, team. I think it is because of the X factor of Jordan Love, right? I mean, it is a quarterback-driven league, and if he's average or fails, then this isn't going to be pretty, but if he is, meets or exceeds, because I think expectations, obviously get high this time of year. If he meets or exceeds expectations and can have this team competing, then I do think the Packers can compete because, like you said, because of the coach, because of the defense, they've got a good offensive line. They still do have weapons. It feels different than Packers years past, but they still have Jones and Dillon. I do love Musgrave. They have, they got Jaden Reed as a slot receiver to add to Dubs and Watson. So, I don't know. I think it really just comes down to Jordan Love for this one. I mean, I'm drafting him in best ball because of the price, as like a third quarterback situation, but do I have like 100%, am I as confident as I am in some other takes that like, I think he's going to, be the guy? No, I because I don't know. We don't know, so I mean, I don't think
I listened to one of your shows on FanSpeak, and you had the guy that won Underdog 2 years ago on.
Yeah.
And he was so high on Jordan Love, but I just couldn't figure out why.
He's very high on the Packers because the Packers have a very, the strength of schedule, the strength of schedule is they have the 21st ranked strength of schedule, but also the DVOA, the defenses that they're facing and the secondaries that they're facing, they have like one of the weakest like secondary rankings to go up against for Jordan Love. So he was looking at that, like, okay, Jordan Love.
That makes sense too, because I haven't seen a lot. And like I said, I'm not like a professional tape guy, but I mean, I could watch a tape and know that Patrick Mahomes is better than Derek Carr, right? I mean, some of the stuff you don't need to have worked in the NFL.
Yeah, that was his.
I just didn't see it last year. So this idea that one training camp and,
it's an unknown. It's a total X factor. But yeah, to his point, I've heard other best ball analysts in the space, and I've heard, just other football people mention that he's got like a very kind of juicy matchup as far as like the secondaries he's facing.
And that might be a great way for essentially like his rookie season. I know he's not a true rookie because he spent so much time in the system, and he's going to understand the grind of the season, the length of the season, the ins and outs of when you get to the hotel, and hopefully picked up some good things from Rodgers.
I was going to say,
he wasn't taking him under his wing.
Well, but to that point, like, I do think these guys that do get a chance to sit, because now rookies really don't, I do think that these guys that get the Aaron Rodgers treatment, that get to sit and learn are set up to succeed more than the rookies that are just thrown to the wolves, So I think for that reason, for his like the secondaries he's facing, I think that gives you some hope. And that's again why I'm drafting him in best ball for sure. But yeah, to sit here and say I confidently, absolutely think Jordan Love is the guy, I don't know. And that is the X factor. If he is the guy, I believe that Packers go over this win total and compete. If he's not, then not. That's going to say.
And on yours, when you're getting him as QB3, that's fantastic. I just see some people building their whole strategy, almost going like 0 QB and thinking that Jordan Love's going to lead the way. And hey, maybe I'm wrong, and they'll be cashing, and I'll be putting my recycling in to go grab my steaks. But we'll see how it goes. Jayme, what are your thoughts here on the Green Bay Packers, and I think specifically Jordan Love, because this is so much of where this team's success is going to come from.
For sure. So I love the Packers. I over 7.5 is, I love that. -120. Take that. I actually checked last night. I tweeted out on April 24th for people to take Matt LaFleur, Coach of the Year, 30-1 odds. It is now down to 16-1 odds. So you don't get as much meat on that bone left, obviously. But I think he has massive upside to win Coach of the Year. I mean, if you think about it, Coach of the Year is a super narrative bet, right? Like it's a narrative award. So it's very rarely do you see the best team with the best record have Coach of the Year. Brian Daboll and the Giants last year, they had low expectations coming in the year. They had a 7.5 win total, just like the Packers do. And what they do, they won 9 games. They went like 9-7-1 or something like that, or it's something like that they went, right? They won, I think, 9 games last year. And what happened? Brian Daboll won Coach of the Year. And why was that? Is because they exceeded expectations. And that's all it comes down to. And everyone is expecting Jordan Love and the Packers to be bad. And you know what? Maybe Jordan Love is bad. I don't know. I don't think anyone knows. If anyone can sit here and say Jordan Love is going to be great or Jordan Love is going to be bad, you're just making something up because you don't. No one knows. And I think that's part of what makes the bet great is that you're embracing the unknown. And sometimes there's value in embracing the unknown, right? Like, give me the chance of not knowing if he comes out to be a mediocre quarterback, right? If he's not complete dust, this Packers team is going to win 8 games. It's with this schedule, it is very easy. They have a top 5 offensive line, returning every single offensive line member in there. They were great last year. Defense, like we all said, they have the best defense in that division by far. And they have, I think, a top 7 to 8 upside overall defense, right? Like, I mean, there's like 6 or 7 first-round picks on here. So, like, really, if the Packers defense ends up being really bad, only 2 things can be true. You either have bad coaching or you have bad draft process, bad scouting, right? Because you can't take all of these first-round picks on defenders and they all end up just being busts, right? At some point, like, if they're
Raiders can.
Who?
My favorite team, the Raiders.
Yeah,
they managed to pull it off.
Right. But I mean, it's I think their defense is really solid. This is a young team. They have tons of upside. We've already talked about their strength of schedule. I think that Jordan Love has good upside. And of course, I'm not going to sit there and say, oh, he's going to be a top 10 quarterback. I don't know, but I think there's a chance he's a top 15 guy. And if where you're getting him from in most fantasy leagues and best ball, et cetera, I mean, I think you're getting pretty good value. He's also very easy to stack. One concern is I do think that Packers are an injury away from, say, Christian Watson to, kind of just what Tyler said about Justin Jefferson. I'm not comparing Christian Watson and Justin Jefferson, of course, but their number 1 receiver, Christian Watson's very good, right? I'm talking
That's going to be most teams, though.
It is most teams, for sure. But
you're talking about the Bengals, the Seahawks, or the Dolphins. That's most teams.
That's very true. That's very true. But I think Christian Watson, he's legit. I mean, he's 6'5", running 4.40. Like, dude, last year after he caught that touchdown against the Cowboys and he stood there and did a backflip just standing, I was like 6'5" and just doing a standing back. I was like, this guy's an absolute freak, man. So I am super high on this Packers team. I think that also in addition, we talked about their defense, but let's talk about special teams, right? Last year they got Keshawn Nixon. He came in from week 10 on. When he came on from week 10 on, the Packers were number 1 in return yards and number 3 in what was it?
So they canned my guy Bisaccia?
Who?
Bisaccia was their special teams coach at the beginning of the year last year.
He's still there. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's still there. And they got but when they added Nixon, he came in, I think he got the start in week 10.
You're talking about a player. I thought you meant you switch the coaches.
Yeah, player, return man, sorry. So they were number 1 in return yards, number 3 in starting position. The 9 weeks prior to that, they were 19th and 18th respectively in that, right? So that's massive. I don't think people realize your starting field position matters, right? And being able to start the ball, at the 35 to 40 yard line compared to what the 20 or the 15 or whatever it is, every single time, that matters. And so I think the Packers have by far the best defense. I think they by far have the best special teams play. And the offense, they're not going to have the best offense, right? I'm not going to say they're a better offense than the Lions or the Vikings, but I think that they're sufficient enough. And if Jordan Love, like I said, if he isn't complete dust, and again, he might be, but if he's not,
he might.
He might be. He very well might be. And if he
is, Utah State, right? It's not like he's
100%. But he is also a first-round quarterback, so it's not like it's Desmond Ridder.
He is, but that was he wasn't a first-round prospect the whole time. That was a real late jump.
No doubt. It was definitely. I mean, when they made that move, I was initially like, man, if you're going to trade up, you should have got T. Higgins. Like they passed on a guy like T. Higgins. Or I mean, the Vikings even traded up a few spots ahead of them to get Justin Jefferson. Like, could you imagine Justin Jefferson next to Devontae Adams for a few years with Devontae Adams or with Aaron Rodgers? Sorry, I mean, that would have been good. But still, they still drafted him in the first round. He's not Desmond Ridder, a guy that got drafted in like the 3rd round where you can maybe question his upside. I think he has first round pedigree. I like him. I think from fantasy wise, I think they have upside, and it's easy to stack. Like Meg said too. Obviously, Christian Watson he goes a little early in like the 4th round. But Romeo, I mean, come on, he's going way late. We just saw in the preseason. Again, it's preseason, but he's going to be heavily involved in this team. And
I love Romeo. If you only give me one Packer, give me Dobbs for the 80.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, well, last year, remember, right before the season, he had all the hype. It wasn't Watson, hype. It was Romeo that had
he had so much hype. Yeah,
100%. And he did well the first 3 to 4 weeks. He got hurt for a little bit, and then Watson came on and then took over a little bit. But I think the Packers, if you really look at it, I think they have a wide receiver skill position that could be very good in the future, right? I'm not saying right now they're going to be, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase by any stretch of the imagination, but I think skill-wise, I think they're very talented. And like makes it about Luke Musgrave. I love Luke Musgrave, and he's been involved a ton in the preseason so far in the minimal snaps that we've seen. And I know a lot of people talk about like historically, right? The Packers haven't utilized tight ends well. Like there was time when they got Jermichael Finley years ago, and they did a little bit with him, but nothing too crazy. But I think that's more a product of Aaron Rodgers, and when you're throwing the ball 40 yards down the field at the highest rate in the league, you're not looking in the middle of the field near as often. So I think Luke Musgrave has massive upside too. Jaden Reed, even late. I mean, if Jaden Reed is one injury away from stepping in and playing significant minutes, and even without that, he's going to play the slot role almost certainly. And also again, the running game. I don't value running game probably as much as some people do, but I still think that they have arguably one of the best running games in that division as well, with AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. So yeah, I'll quit my rant. I love the Packers. I mean, I love the over 7.5. I still like LaFleur Coach of the Year 16-1. Don't love it as much as I did when it was 30-1. 31 was just an absolute smash in my opinion. But win NFC North plus 400 too. I mean, like Tyler said, really 8 to 9 wins could win you this division. And I think the Packers.
And you're betting on the best coach and the best defense. And traditionally, that's not been bad. Like I said, I hate to be reductive, but it just feels like it's whether or not Jordan Love can be just a top 20 quarterback. I mean, he just can't be terrible. But I'm worried he's going to be terrible.
It's possible.
I'm worried he's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, he's a first-round quarterback, but I'd say quarterbacks have like way higher bust rate than any other position.
That's true.
Especially for first rounders. It just seems like it's less than 50% actually hit. Where if you grab like a tackle in the first round, it feels like it's like a 75% hit rate.
For sure.
Wide receivers feel like it's around 60%.
For sure.
Running backs feels like it's like 95%. It's just did you use your allocation correctly?
Right.
But very rare do you grab a first round running back. Like who is the guy? Was it Anthony? I said Anthony Richardson. Who is that guy on the Colts?
The Colts, yeah. I know who you're talking
he went
about.
number 4.
And it was a total bust, yeah.
I mean, Trent Richardson or something.
Trent Richardson.
He won Rookie of the Year, too, I think. I think he won Rookie of the Year. He had like 12 touchdowns or something like that. And then he didn't pan out. Yeah.
But my point is that I think this is tough, but I can get on board with what you're saying because all it takes is a leap over that Love bridge, right? I mean, you just jump right on over, and if he gets there, you're going to be good. So I'll tell you what, I like this. So I hate to go back to not liking the Lions, Meg, but I like the Packers over 7.5 more than I would like the Lions over 9.5. And because Tyler will be back in 10, and we'll just get him to help us wrap up. To win the North, right? Obviously, like the Lions and the Vikings have a better chance, but if you're simply looking at value and you're only going to place one bet, this is the bet for me. So I can understand everything you're coming from there. Meg, anything more about the Packers? I mean, I talk about this before when we do these previews. Sometimes there's not a lot to say that the rest of the industry isn't saying. And it just feels to me if Love is good.
Yeah.
This team's probably going to win the division, but a lot of people do not think, including myself, he's going to be good.
And I will also say I agree with Jayme about the receivers and the running backs are good. It's just like I don't know what their depth is like. And again, you talked about not many teams have depth past their alpha receiver, like another alpha. But I don't even know who are their guys. If one of those three were
Tory,
Yeah, that's what worries me a little. I feel like after those first 3, I feel comfortable with those first 3 guys. Again, I like Jaden Reed in the slot. I love the Luke Musgrave at tight end. But if 1 or 2 get banged up, they were rotating receivers last year, and that was a problem with Aaron Rodgers. If they get banged up at the receiver position and you're relying on Samori Toure and some of those other guys, that's going to get rough. And then that's not going to set Jordan Love up for success either, so sure. I think they're going to, like any team that, wins their division does well, they have to have health luck too. I mean, that goes for anybody, but they feel a little thinner as far as receiver depth than others.
One thing they have going for them is that offensive line, though, because I almost feel that, like, with proper blocking, like a majority of these quarterbacks look pretty good. Then we don't get the blocking, and all of a sudden they're not looking too good.
100%.
I screwed that up, Tyler. Tyler, just
we're playing the game of who
we're
can control the banners.
We're having a disco party with that. Go ahead, Tyler. Packers breakdown. Jamie's really high on. Actually, let me ask Jayme one more question before you break down. Hopefully, your internet stays with us. So, since you love the Packers, are you grabbing some Aaron Jones? Because he's around that 50 range too, and it seems like if you love the Packers, he's gonna have a big year.
So I like Aaron Jones. I don't love him. I think AJ Dillon is. I like AJ Dillon probably slightly more as ADP. Aaron Jones just isn't going to get many red zone looks. I mean, he didn't last year. And an issue too, as we saw last couple years, is that the Packers in the second half of the season they started to utilize AJ Dillon more than Aaron Jones. I don't know if it's like the Packers, old school traditional.
I think it makes sense.
The bigger back, the bigger
guy,
back in cold weather, right? They're going to give it to him. But Aaron Jones he's going to have spike weeks. The dude has massive upside, right? He's going to have times where he's going to catch 9 balls and he's going to break off 100 some yards and break because he's an explosive player. He's not going to get the red zone looks, which I don't like. But I still I think he's fair to stack with Jordan Love. I think
he's right there with Kenneth Walker. Who do you like better for the upcoming season, Jayme?
I like Aaron Jones better. I'm not as big on Kenneth Walker, but I like Aaron Jones more for sure.
All right, that sucks for my portfolio because I have a ton of Kenneth Walker. But I think on DK, I want more Jones. On underdog, I'm fine with the way I'm at. Tyler, Packers breakdown. Go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to get some heat for this breakdown. Everyone's going to say it's like way too far to take it. When you look at Jordan Love, like which quarterback does he remind you a lot of in the NFL? Like just play style. Not exactly a talent-wise and the way he makes it work, but he's a gamer. He wants to take shots down the field. He will let that deep ball fly.
Who's the answer here, Russ?
Mahomes.
Oh my God.
Sign me up. I'm in.
I'm not saying the talent's anywhere near Mahomes, but just the play style. Like, I think the kid could have a year where he throws 40 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, and we think he's the next coming. And the next year, it's like, what is 27 touchdowns and 20 interceptions here? Like, this isn't the same guy from last year. So I think he's going to be an all-over-the-place quarterback. He's going to take shots. They have a dual running back set up with 2 solid guys. Everyone talks about Musgrave, but no one talks about the fact that not the next pick after that, but the following pick went to another tight end in Kraft. They're going to run a 2 tight end set. You're probably not getting any deeper than the 3 receivers they mainly run. It's going to be a pretty simple offense for him to run. The defense is going to back him. In a weak division where the defenses aren't going to be as tough, and you brought up a very good point saying this, Meg, when you said he doesn't play any good secondaries, you go through that schedule, and I mean, probably the 2 toughest defenses he has to play are the Steelers and Denver. One of those teams doesn't have a secondary really, and that's Pittsburgh. So he's going to be able to throw the ball very well. I think they go 9-7. Give me that over 7.5, and I think that 9-7 wins them the division, punches their playoff ticket, and they get in. So give me that plus 350 on that.
I love it. I'm with you. And like you said, that's a great call. I think the Packers will be running 12 and 21 personnel much more often. I think they're going to have 2 running backs out there. They're going to have 2 tight ends out there. I don't think we're going to see them run 11 personnel, and that's why Jayden Reed will be effective for sure. But playing in the slot, I don't think we're going to see Packers run 11 personnel at a high clip. You can just tell by the way they have constructed this team, the way they drafted, like you said, 2 tight ends. And maybe that's not going to be effective right away, but even with the 2 running backs, like AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are 2 of the better skill position players that they have on the team. Why would they not utilize 21 and 12 personnel more often? So I'm with you, Tyler. That's a good call.
Yeah, and I also think we see Christian Watson take a step forward. I mean, outside of last year, I think the dude knew how to run 2 routes. He knew how to run a slant, and he knew how to run a streak.
Yep.
He scored touchdowns on both of them. I think he had 7 touchdowns last year. He missed games. I think you see that route tree expand here. He gets more involved, and with the size he is and the speed he runs, he's just going to be a giant weapon for Jordan Love just to throw the ball up to and go get.
100%. I'll bounce off that too real quick. If people remember, the very first play of the game last year, for the Packers. Game 1 was a bomb to Christian Watson that he just dropped, right? It was right in his hands.
Yeah.
And then after that, he couldn't stay healthy. And I think something that some people don't think about, right, is Aaron Rodgers, he's very big on he wasn't showing up to like the voluntary camps and he wasn't getting involved with the players early. And, he's always historically said, like, I don't need to do that, right? And I get that Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to do that. But when you have a team full of rookie receivers that you're throwing to, they need that, right? Like they need that familiarity with you. So like the fact that, we've seen Jordan Love since, before the draft even get together, bring out all these guys to California and throw the football and get used to each other. Like, I think that's massive for this team. I think these players are excited for what could happen. Like, obviously, the big downgrade going from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love, obviously, right? But like, I think they're excited. I think that they see a lot of upside in this guy, and I'm with you, man. I think Christian Watson's gonna. He has top 10 wide receiver, right? Like upside. He could be a wide receiver 1. Like, what did he do? He ran like I think 24% targets per route rate, and then he also had like 2.44 yards per route run, which like is I think elite for rookies, right? Like if you look at historical data for the last like 10 years or something like that, like he's among the best of rookie wide receivers. Like the guy is an absolute freak. So I think when you have a guy too that is a genuine alpha like that, right? He's not just a random guy. He's an absolute alpha. That's going to help Jordan Love as well, right? So I'm with you. That's a good call.
Yeah, Tyler, sorry I had to take a break during that breakdown. I had to go turn on the AC because that take was so hot. For more of these hot takes, guys, join on at runthroughsports.com. Use that promo code NFL20. That will give you 20% off the life of your membership. Meg, anything more on this Green Bay Packers team? I mean, boy, these guys brought it here, right? This is pretty easy.
They're bringing the heat. I'm just so bullish on my Lions. You all make good points. You all make good points for the Vikings and the Packers. I mean, I'll just go back to the Packers. It's all on the X factor of Love and the X factor of Ken Watson make that second year leap. A lot of receivers, have a big.
And those are so correlated too.
Well, of course, yeah, right? Yeah. I mean, those two are correlated, but like some receivers, do like flash as a rookie, but then like make a massive second year leap. If he can make a massive second year leap, which of course would be correlated to Love looking good, then yeah, this team's cooking. If both of those, one or both of those aren't, then yeah, I'm a little not as high on them. So I think it's just that's why it's a lot of question marks, but it's intriguing for sure.
All right. Anything more on the team from Lambeau before we move on?
I got one more thing. I said it with the Vikings. I'm going to say it's a little opposite of what I just said about how if you like the Vikings, you could probably take their win total later in the season. I think it's opposite of the Packers. If you like the over 7.5, or if you don't like the over 7.5, the Packers start off with the Bears, Falcons, Saints, Lions, Raiders, Broncos, Vikings, Rams, and Steelers, right? Like there's a very good chance that the Packers are – 6-3, even 5-4. And I mean, if that's the case through that, they only have to win 2 to 3 more games in the last, they have to win maybe 33% of their games in the last nine or so games. Like, I think that's pretty good. Their whole schedule is relatively easy, but they don't play the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Giants, 3 teams that, were made the playoffs. And I know Giants are debatable, but a playoff caliber team, right? Like, they play all of them from week 11 on. So you're getting all of these teams with a pretty favorable schedule early on. There's definitely a pathway for the Packers to win 5 or 6 games in the first 9 or so games, without a doubt, in my opinion.
Yeah, we will see for Jordan Love, the one replacing a Hall of Famer. The old saying goes, you'd rather be the guy that replaces the guy that replaced the Hall of Famer than have to do that. So he's going to have his work cut out for him. Tyler, do you have anything more, or do you want to do some Chicago Bears talk?
Just before we go into that dumpster fire up in Chicago, just to touch a little bit more on how I think he can be anywhere from elite to like Jameis Winston status. You just look at his last 2 years in college. 2018, the dude threw for 3,600 yards.
In what, the Mountain West?
32 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But then the next year spread, 3,400 yards, 20 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. So he could be anywhere all over the place with how he plays, but the dude's going to take shots. Who wouldn't take shots at quarterback for Green Bay over the last 8 years? Who just throws it out of bounds when he doesn't like what he sees, doesn't want to mess up his interception ratio? He's going to give Christian Watson so many chances to jump balls. he might be like a top 5 wide receiver, just chasing these balls down, grabbing and breaking one tackle, 70-yard touchdown. Like, I could see it happening all year.
Yep, love it.
All right. Well, yeah, I can't wait. And this is a fun team because there's so much variance involved, right? I think like for the Vikings, right, you can say over, under, but I think we pretty much know they're going to be contending for a playoff spot. They're going to be a fairly good team. They're going to be a tough out, especially at home. There's a lot of teams like the Dallas Cowboys, right? We have a pretty good idea of what that team is. This Packers team, a lot of variance here. Chicago Bears, I'm not sure if there's as much variance, and I don't know why they have the same win total as the Packers. Tell me why. I don't get it. You can say that Justin Fields is a more proven commodity, but he's still not that proven. Great fantasy quarterback. This is a bet show. We're going to talk this win total, and getting that 100-yard bonus on rushing on DK doesn't necessarily always help you get the win. The defense still isn't that good. The offensive line has a ways to go. And hey, great job adding DJ Moore, but now we have Darnell Mooney and Chase Claypool, who went on LeBron's show and said he was the best football player of all time, and then barely, we said he was going to be the best wide receiver in the league, and then it seems to be barely practicing. I mean, the guy's just weird. Tyler, congratulations to your great franchise for getting a second-round pick for him. I mean, that should have been like a
we had to cleanse that wide receiver room. We got rid of him. We got rid of Mr. TikTok and Juju, and we brought in George Pickens.
Yeah.
Love it.
I mean, yeah, you got a great job there. And once again, Mike Tomlin does a great job. But I don't understand why people are so high on the Bears. Meg, explain it to me. Over 7.5, and it's minus 140. I can get under 7.5 for plus 110. Is there some sort of schedule thing? I mean, why is it?
All the NFC West kind of has the similar schedule. And sure, the Bears have like the 4th place schedule, but they're all playing the AFC West and they're all playing the NFC South, and then they're all beating up on each other. So yeah, the Bears have then the 4th place schedule, but that's only a handful of games. So you're not going to get me to explain the over. I'm betting the under. I'll take the plus money. I'm fading Justin Fields in best ball. I'm like ducking as like, listen, you have to make a stand.
It's tough. I think the reason you fade him is just the ADP.
It's the ADP. I'm bullish on Justin Herbert being back to a top 3 quarterback. He's going after Justin Fields. So if I'm taking Justin Fields, that's taking away. I cannot get enough Justin Herbert shares right now. And so if I were then trying to get Justin Fields in my portfolio, that would be then screwing up my Justin Herbert shares even more. So anyways, that's the whole thing. But like, I think, like you said, not a good defense coach. And like, we don't know, like offensive line average, the past couple of years, it's been like Josh Allen made the 3rd-year leap when he got Diggs. Last year, Hurts made the 3rd-year leap when he got AJ Brown. Well, this year, if you think it's just going to be like a just add water situation with DJ Moore, I don't know that it's going to be that a 3rd year in a row with this situation. First of all, Hurts had an incredible offensive line. He had other weapons outside of DJ Moore. I know they've got Kmet, who obviously Fields had a strong connection with, but the other receivers for Chicago do not wow me. So it's, he's just got DJ Moore, and, they throw at a historically low rate. He takes an incredibly high sack rate. He has an incredibly high sack rate, which kills drives. So like, unless a lot of these things are absolutely changing, and again, when you have an average offensive line, I don't know that I see that, and just one weapon, I'm out. I'm not in on the Bears. And again, I can't be in on all these teams. So I'm out on the Bears. I'm very obviously in on the Lions and kind of, meh on the other 2. And so I see the Bears, finishing in 4th again. And I don't see it. So I'm with you. I don't see it.
All right. 5 years from now, will the Bears regret not taking Bryce Young and going Justin Fields? What do you think, Meg?
You mean waiting another year?
Well, because they had the number 1 pick, right? And they traded it.
Right. Oh,
they could have had Bryce Young.
Right. That's right. You mean this year?
I'm saying 5 years from now. Like, what year would that be? 2028? Boy, we're getting old. It's 2028. Are Bears fans going to be like, God, I can't believe we passed on Bryce Young? Or would they be happy with the decision that was made?
I mean, that's just me. Like, absolutely. I mean, anybody is just purely
we're guessing.
wildly speculating. Yeah, I do think they'll regret that. But of course, I understand why they wouldn't have this year. However, hindsight's always 2020, and yeah, I think they'll.
If you were a Bears fan, what would you have wanted them to do?
I mean, I think Fields showed enough hope that I think it would have been hard for any Bears fan to be like, nope, let's go, take Young and trade Fields and do all that whole thing. So, I think that's tough. But again, hindsight's all, just like the whole Chase Young thing as a Washington fan. Like, looking back, oh my God, of course I would have rather us have taken Justin Herbert, you know what I mean? Or Tua even, my God, than Chase Young. But then if anybody would have suggested that, then you would have been looked at like an absolute clown. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's easy to say, hindsight. So I think it would have been hard for any Bears fan to say, yeah, let's ditch it after Fields showed so much of his athletic ability. I just worry about as a passer, can he really get there to be that true dual threat?
Jayme, I'm going to ask you the same question, and then let's hear your Bears breakdown. But I think that's just a fascinating thing, and obviously hindsight's going to be 2020. But right now, I think you can make good arguments either way. 5 years from now, do they regret not taking Bryce Young? Your thoughts?
I mean, I'll say no, just because I don't know. Maybe I'm not as high on Bryce Young as maybe other. I mean, if this was next year, right? And that Caleb Williams we're talking about, right? Out of USC, right? It's a different story. But I'm just not super sold on Bryce Young as being the guy. It's not that I'm super high on Justin Fields either, so I don't want to make you think that. But overall, I mean, I'm with Meg when it comes to like best ball. I'm much higher on Herbert and Trevor Lawrence, both after Fields. So I'm just not getting very much Fields, and also I don't really like, really, because if you want Fields and you want DJ Moore, you're gonna have to do a lot of double tapping, right? It's like you're gonna get the turn there because they go right next to each other. They're ADPs like 2 or 3 spots.
It's like you have to have the 11th pick or the 10th pick to start, and that kind of puts you in the spot, and then you overdraft at the 3-4 turn.
Exactly, and I don't mind Mooney. I think Mooney's fine, and Claypool. I'm a Notre Dame fan, so Claypool will always have a special place in my heart for sure. But I just don't think he's. I don't think he's that dude. I don't think.
I don't even know what's up with him.
Yeah, he's hard to get a peg on. I'm not in love with the skill position guys. Fields also highest percentage of passes thrown under pressure last year. I think like 48% of his pass attempts he was under pressure. Like, this team is not going to be very good. I think they ranked 29th in pass blocking efficiency. I don't think that they're going to be a very good team. I think he's going to struggle. But for fantasy perspective, he has massive upside, as we all know. Yeah. We saw it last year. I mean, the guy can rush for 100 yards, like at an insane clip. Like,
you better rusher than Lamar Jackson?
I don't think so. I'm not going to go that far. Maybe I can't say that. I mean, I wouldn't argue if someone did try to say that, but for me, it's just I'm super high on Lamar too. So I would definitely take Lamar over him. But again, like Meg said, it's going to be dependent on. I think if you like this team, you are expecting Fields to take the Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts type leap this year, right? Like, that's kind of what you are expecting if you're high on the Bears. I personally don't see it. It could definitely happen. It's 100% in the range of outcomes, obviously, but I'm not banking on that. It's definitely not for me. But someone I do like Khalil Herbert quite a bit. I think if you look last year, or actually in his whole career, right, he's had 5 games where he has played 60% or more of the team snaps. In those 5 games, he averages 22 touches, 100+ yards, and 3 total touchdowns, right? And right now he's getting drafted basically because it's a committee, right? It's him, it's Rashawn Johnson, and it's Deontay Foreman, right? So people don't know. But what if, right, Khalil Herbert does end up being the guy, right? What if Foreman or someone gets hurt? Or what if they just really end up liking Khalil Herbert and you're able to get him at like what is he running back, like 36, 37, around that range right now? I mean, he has massive upside in that division. So he's a guy that I think just because he's priced based off of a committee, but he still has massive upside. He's a guy that I like quite a bit when it comes to best ball or even just regular season long fantasy. but like I said, I think overall, I'm not a big fan. Their tight end position, I know Cole Kmet, I think, had 40% of Fields' touchdowns last year, right? Like that's going to regress. And they also just signed Robert Tonyan too. So I'm out on him. I just don't love Fields very much from a fantasy perspective when it comes to wanting to stack. And obviously, if you're playing like a regular season-long league where stacking isn't as common or as needed, then yeah, I'm fine with Fields. If someone told me that if they think Fields is going to be a top 5 quarterback, I wouldn't think it's out of this world, right? It's very possible with the way he rushes, and if you believe he's going to take that leap, and adding DJ Moore helps, but it doesn't automatically mean that Justin Fields is going to be an efficient passer, right? Like obviously adding DJ Moore is good, but it doesn't necessarily mean he's just all of a sudden going to be Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or whatever it is. So I think there's a lot of unknowns. 7.5. Their schedule is much, much easier than it was last year. Obviously, like everyone in NFC North is. I would still probably go under. Their defense is just terrible. They ranked 32nd in DVOA last year. I don't really see that improving much at all. I think, and you might not like this spread, but I think the Vikings and the Bears are going to be battling for that 4th spot in the NFC this year. So I think I would go with the under 7.5. And I'm off of Fields. Give me Trevor Lawrence, give me Justin Herbert, and we'll call it a day there.
All right, well, we're going 1-1 there because I agree with you on the Bears under, and I'm getting plus 110 here at Bet Online. That's just unbelievable to me. A couple things about that leap, and I think Meg hit it, so I'm just repeating what she said. But when you talk about Hurts and Allen, these are teams that had solid franchises around them, right? Really good offensive line, nice weapons, well coached, strong defenses. Then they gave them the wide receiver, right? I still think this offensive line is terrible. And to your point about Fields, for best ball, I'm out. I mean, I did a couple Bears stacks just because I'm over 100 teams, right? So at this point, I screw around and just get everything sometimes, right? But I could see myself playing him a lot on our week to week, right? Sure. I could see myself landing on Fields a lot, especially if he's priced below those guys like he was last year, right? It just felt like he was chalk last year, right? Because it would be like, Mahomes is sitting there at like 78 and then Fields is at 55. And I have close to the same ceiling, and that allows me to spend up for the Jeffersons, the Diggs, the guys like that. So Fields going to be completely out on best ball, but I can see myself with a lot of Justin Fields once we start doing the daily fantasy and the week to week on Sunday. Tyler, I mean, I think that we're all just going to be holding hands singing Kumbaya here, right? Is anyone high in Chicago, even across the whole industry?
I mean, Justin Fields is the most bet guy to win MVP. I mean, you give Bears fans,
but that's a number play, right?
It's really not because he's priced.
What's his number?
I'll pull it up now. Let's see where he's priced at. Season awards. And
yeah, I think they're just betting the number there. I don't think
he's priced higher than Deshaun Watson, which I don't think is right.
Well, Deshaun Watson's not going to get it. Deshaun Watson could have the best season
I agree. He won't get it, but
you understand my point from the optics?
Yes.
If this is absolutely a blow reward, it's not.
This is they literally did this 3 or 4 years ago, spread. That they had an historically good defense that dragged Mitchell Trubisky to the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And then next year, everyone that thought Chicago was going to be good thought Mitch was going to take this giant leap forward and become an elite quarterback, and their team was going to be great. Well, they didn't have the defense last year. All they had was a quarterback that ran for 1,000 yards, and they're dancing like there's ants in their pants again. They think this guy's going to be good. They think bringing in one wide receiver is going to fix them. When the last time the dude had a good throwing game, he had one of the best wide receiver rooms in college. He had Garrett Wilson, he had Olave, he had JSN, he had all these guys he was throwing the ball to.
That's so crazy.
All four.
You couldn't even get those guys on best ball right now.
All four of us on this panel right now could go get under center for that Ohio State team and throw those guys touchdowns.
I'd love to see Meg doing that.
He stares down his first read on plays for like 4 seconds. I remember hearing it on a podcast. He doesn't get through his reads fast, and he stares down the guy.
Why he takes so many sacks? He takes high sack rate.
Yeah, the sacks are going to be crazy. But all I hear coming out of Chicago campus, they want to throw the ball more. And you're going to give me a 30-1 on this guy to lead the league in picks? I will gladly bet that 30-1. Especially when I can get it to 30-1 on DK, and then I jump over to FanDuel, and he's 9-1 tied for the highest odds. So I'll take a shot on that 30-1 that he leads the league in picks. The defense is going to stink. They're going to force him to throw the ball more. Teams have the film on him running the ball now. He didn't really show much running ability in college either. So, I feel like that just caught a lot of teams just way off. They didn't see that coming. Now with the film, they'll know how to keep him in the pocket, in the backfield. Force him to throw the ball. We all know he can't throw it. I think he just loads up on picks all year, trying to force the ball to Jayme Orth. Maybe he has a couple flashes games where he throws maybe 3 touchdowns, runs for 100 yards.
Oh, he'll have spike weeks.
Hollering because he scored so many DK points. But the team's just not going to be good. Give me the under on that win total.
I still can't believe I thought the most surprising thing in this division was that the Lions were favored over the Vikings, but I'd have to say that the Bears and the Packers are rated exactly the same.
And for your question about the Bears regretting not taking Bryce Young,
give me your answer.
I think they regret it, but I also think it's one of those things, regardless of who's under center right now, you weren't fixing it. If it was Trevor Lawrence's quarterback for this team, they aren't fixing it. If Mahomes is in Chicago, they're not fixing it. There's just too much stuff banged up there. The offensive line, the wide receiver room. And to talk about that third-year leap for quarterbacks, everyone just keeps going to Fields. Why are we not paying attention to the long-haired kid in Jacksonville who's got all the weapons now? He was in a shitty division, who's going to win 12 games and probably in contention for the MVP. That's your third-year quarterback leap right there. He's putting his name amongst the top guys. It's not Fields.
Yeah, will Calvin Ridley become the Stephon Diggs or the A.J. Brown, right?
Yes.
And that's a great possibility from everything we've seen from him in camp. Doesn't seem like those parlays took anything away from his speed. Good to see down there for Jacksonville. So, I think, I really wanted to take that Minnesota over, but I think the Chicago under is going to be my best bet. I just cannot believe that this is ranked as the same team as the Packers. I guess that's what's throwing me off. I mean, I'm just looking at these two teams, and one has a really good coach, really good offensive line, a really good defense. The other, I don't know. I mean, can we even judge Getsy as a coach with the team he has? So maybe he's an okay coach. But when I just look at the defensive and the offensive line personnel, comparing the Bears and the Packers, it's just wild to me. And I guess the only way that the Bears would outperform the Packers in my mind, I mean, Justin Fields would carry them. If they did that, it's because Jordan Love's absolutely terrible, and Justin Fields does actually make that leap. But I don't see that.
I think Jordan Love could be as terrible as we think he's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Fields could take a slight step, and the Packers can still finish with a better record than the Bears.
Well, they have such a better team.
That's why, yeah.
All right, let's do our best bets. I already gave mine out. I like under 7.5 wins for the Bears, but as a bonus, I love over 8.5 on the Vikings as well. I know the panel is split on that. Meg, I have a pretty good idea of what you're going to say, but go ahead and confirm it. Your best bet for the NFC North.
I gotta stay consistent through the show here with my Lions love. I mean, I wear burgundy and gold on Sundays. I might need to mix a little powder blue in based on my best ball exposure. So give me plus 145, the Lions to win this division. And FanDuel does that special where you make $100 Super Bowl winner, and then you get $5-10 back each week that you get a win. As long as they get 10 wins, you get your money back essentially. So
that's pretty cool.
I'll take my long shot on the 21-1 Lions Super Bowl.
That would be crazy. That would be like the worst defense to ever win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it would be a product of just like the NFC being so weak and something happening to, injury situations for 49ers and Eagles or something like that. But yeah, I'll do that for fun. But yeah, Lions plus 145 to win the division. I'll stay consistent here.
Jayme, what's your best bet for this whole NFC North division?
So if LaFleur coach of the year was still 30-1, that would be it for sure. 16-1, it's a little tougher, so I would pass on that. So it's really the over 7.5 or win NFC North, but I'm just going to go with over 7.5 minus 120. I think the NFC North at plus 400 is still fine too.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, I mean, it has moved a little bit. Obviously, the Packers, last two preseason games, their offenses look pretty good, and I think a lot more hype is kind of starting to come on them. So the market was starting to move a little bit. But I would say over 7.5. And if anyone's interested, maybe Tyler likes this as well. It's not the best bet, but a Christian Watson over 5.5 touchdowns plus 106. So, I mean, you're getting plus money on, Watson to get 6 TDs, which, I mean, this guy has 2 to 3 touchdown upside in each game, right? Like he's a big play threat. He's a big guy. He's going to be getting a lot of high value targets in the red zone. So I like that too. But the best bet would be over 7.5 minus 120 for the Packers.
All right. Tyler, what's the best bet for the NFC North?
I got 2 of them. I'm going to double down on that Packers with Jayme. I'm going to take them just to win the division. Give me that plus 400. I think they pull it off in a weaker division this year. And I love that Fields lead the league in interceptions. If you're telling me that dude's throwing the ball more and we're getting a 30-1, I'll gladly take a shot on that. And then one fun play spread, because they uploaded these. We were looking for these last Friday when we did our show with Kurt on the NFC South. Exact orders this division finishes.
Oh.
Packers first, Lions second, Vikings third, Bears fourth, 20-1. Bet that one. Also,
Switch me, Vikings.
That was the next one. Yeah, Packers first, Vikings second, Lions third, Bears fourth, 24-1. I think they're both.
Give me both those.
Yep,
I love it. Great.
All right, guys, Run Pure Sports. Become a member. Use that promo code NFL20, 20% off the life of your membership. RunPureSports.com. It is the end of the show. And Jayme, I don't know how many you've watched, but we always have a guest give out some words of wisdom to the people. Because it's your first episode, that task falls to you today. RunPureSports.com. Give us a thumbs up. Jayme, words of wisdom to get us out of here.
Words of wisdom is just put the whole farm on Green Bay. Put everything you got. No, I'm just kidding. We practice good bankroll management here, so definitely do not be doing that. But words of wisdom, honestly, guys, I love the show. I watch every single week. I do, for sure. So I was prepared for this. As you can tell, I'm super prepared, right? But I'm excited for the season. We're ready to go. We're gonna have a bunch of good content up at Run Pure Sports. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. Bank on the Packers. Do not bank on the Vikings. I know spread won't like it, but do not do it. Do not waste your money. Keep it. Go buy something else. Put it on the Packers, and that's all I gotta say.